start with picking the White Sox roster.
All right, like that idea. This one is interesting. I think this one might be harder than the Tigers.
Yeah, because it's a more solidified roster that's going to still be there next year. They're going to be in the playoffs again next year. You've got to think nothing's going to change significantly. Injuries can't possibly be worse than they were this year. So, they've got a lot of talent on that roster, and there's still some really solid guys like Rutherford and Adolfo in their farm system that maybe make an appearance. So it'll be interesting to go through some of these. So let's start with the starting pitchers. Who makes the starting five for that rotation?
Well, obviously Lucas Giolito, Dylan Cease.
Yep.
I don't think they keep Kuechel around, so I think Dallas Keuchel's gone.
Correct. I agree.
The question they're going to have
all right.
Yeah, so I don't think they re-sign Kuechel. I think he's just done his time there at this point. Had a rough year last year. It's time to move on. The questions are going to be with Lance Lynn or Carlos Rodon. I think Lynn will be back. In my opinion, I think he had some injury issues at the end of the year, but he's still a horse in the middle of that rotation, in my opinion. The bigger question, in my opinion, is Rodon. Do they re-sign him? He's probably going to want to get paid a lot more than he came back on he was non-tendered in the offseason, and then he came back on a minor league deal just because he thought he had something left, and obviously he had a lot left. He was finally mostly healthy until the end of the year this year. So, and his agent is Scott Boras, so they're going to try to get him some money. But I know he loves being in Chicago, so yeah, I don't know. So I'm going to actually say they're going to re-sign Carlos Rodon, and then I'm going to say Michael Kopech moves the rotation as the fifth arm.
Okay, so I'm 100% on Giolito still. I think he's going to be the ace there, obviously, and I think Dylan Cease, his breaking ball continues to get better. His strikeouts are up. I do think Michael Kopech's going to get his spot. Now, whether he's going to make the 4th or 5th, it's going to depend on what they do in the offseason free agency. I think that Kuechel is off, so I agreed there. I also think they will not retain Lance Lynn. Whether that's Lance Lynn testing free agency a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that also means that might open up some cash for Carlos Martinez or Robbie Ray.
They may go.
Depending if you want that lefty or righty, to be honest.
Yeah, if they go, I think if Lynn isn't back, then I would guess they'll go with a veteran guy. Because they could also decide to move Garrett Crochet to the rotation eventually.
I was wondering about Crochet and also Ronaldo Lopez.
Yep. So they're both starters by trade, but in the end, I think Lopez kind of found a niche as the long reliever, and he's got a chance in a spot starter. And Crochet, I don't know if he's ready for that yet. Maybe he is, but and I actually like his potential as a starter, but I don't know if you want that as you don't want he and Kopech in the same rotation at the same time right now. Surrounded by still some young guys. I mean, Giolito's still relatively young. Cease is young. And then if they do bring back Rodon, like he'd be the older guy, but even that, then he's still, not super old. He's just been hurt a lot. So I don't know. It could be a really fun rotation to watch, but yeah, if they don't keep Lynn, then I think they'll go get another veteran because you need another veteran presence on that type of team. So,
how many pitchers do you think they keep on the roster? Because then that will determine how many relievers you call to this next season's opening day roster.
Probably 13 start.
So you think they got seven or 8 out of the bullpen with the closer?
With the bullpen to start. Yeah, with the closer. Yeah.
So I've got Hendricks.
Yep.
I've got Aaron Bummer.
Yep.
I think Crochet stays in the bullpen.
Yep.
I'm going to say Ryan Tepera.
Yep.
Evan Marshall.
That one's a question mark.
Yeah, I know. These last
two. He was hurt this entire year mostly.
Yeah, these last two are my bigger question marks. Jose Ruiz is also a question mark.
He had a pretty good year actually, but question mark.
And I think they're going to part ways with Ryan Burr and Matt Foster.
Yeah,
I think I could see them trying to keep maybe one of those if they don't feel like they like the other back end of the arms there. I think I have Kimbrel as a maybe, but I think
Kimbrel, they're gonna pick up his option and they're gonna trade him. They've pretty much already said that.
Oh,
so,
okay. Well, yeah, you've got the inside scoop.
They haven't necessarily put it out there, but like they've pretty much said, yeah. I mean, we're gonna pick up his option, so he's gonna technically be on the team, in this offseason, but then they're gonna try to trade him.
The only other maybes I've got there would be Jace Fry and Jimmy Cordero.
Yep. Cordero was hurt all year last year, so if he comes back strong, but it's going to be the bullpen. Those first four guys you mentioned, I think, are pretty locked in.
Yeah.
From there, it could be anybody, though. I know they like a couple different arms that are down in double and triple A too, and they could go get another veteran guy too. They probably could use another veteran guy. It's really just hard to figure out what they want to do there, though. Do they want to spend money on a starting pitcher? They probably are going to want to spend money on either a right fielder or a second baseman or both. So it's a big question mark there. If they're going to trade Kimbrel, okay, you're probably going to be able to get a pretty good haul for him, but do you package him with another position player, one of the younger position players that, are probably going to be backups this next year anyway, and try to get a lot for him. So I don't know. It's a big question mark there, but yeah, the first four, Hendricks, Bummer,
Crochet and Tapera
are for sure. If Kopech doesn't move the starting rotation, then obviously he's there in that middle relief setup guy role.
Ronaldo Lopez was another guy you mentioned. Maybe as
Lopez is probably. I think he's got a good chance to be in there. I like him better than Ruiz in that similar role. So
Chase Fry is a lefty though too, right?
Fry's a lefty, yeah, but so are Bummer and Crochet. So you probably don't need three lefties. I just need the two. Unless you want to go with the third. So Fry was hurt all year last year too.
Question on the closer. Do you think they just run it with Hendricks or play it by ear and maybe try Bummer in that and have Hendricks as a setup?
Hendricks.
Okay. Well, I figured you probably stick with what works. It seemed to work for the most part, except for whenever I watched them, it didn't work. So Hendricks
was arguably the best reliever. He was the best reliever in baseball the last month and a half. I mean, he didn't give up a run. He had like 47 strikeouts and 0 walks in the last month and a half.
His control is the best I've ever seen. He doesn't walk anybody every time I watch, but it seems like sometimes he gives up those hard base hits. So,
right. So I'm not worried about Hendricks at all. They also have him to a longer term deal. So he had a 4-year deal in the offseason. So I think they're going to stick there.
Okay. Well, then let's take a look then at the position players. Catcher, I think we're going to be in agreement that Yasmani Grandal is back to start.
Yeah.
At catcher. Yep. Who is the backup to you? Is it Zach Collins or Sebi Zavala or someone else?
Well, I like Zavala better personally, but what I really would like them to do is find a veteran catcher who's just a good catcher for their backup. Grandal's going to catch the lion's share of games. He's a better catcher. He's been an all-star. He was great in the second half when he came back this last year.
Best plate discipline in baseball.
Yeah, incredible. But I would like them to not have to have young guy as a backup catcher. It was awesome when they had James McCann in Grandal 2 years ago. McCann's way too expensive now because he had such a good year the previous year. But a guy like that who's been around, knows how to handle pitching staffs. I'm not expecting great offense from a guy like that, but I want a veteran there. Unless, Zavala had moments. Collins, I've given up on. He was a former first-round pick, but I've given up on him at this point. So I would go Zavala, or I would like to see them just. He doesn't need to be expensive. You can sign him to whatever it is, to a 1 or 2 year deal. But just a veteran presence, I think that would help.
Who's opening day first baseman?
Jose Abreu.
Okay, well, I had Abreu as opening day DH, and I have Andrew Vaughn as opening day first baseman.
I think Abreu's going to play first base. He hates DHing, so they're going to play him at first base as long as they can. Now, this is where they come into problems though. They have too many guys who are kind of pigeonholed in that first base DH role. Andrew Vaughn's a good left fielder too.
He can play both field. He can play right and left.
Played right and left well, and he played some third base too.
I've not seen that.
So he's not bad there, right? So he's flexible. So I'm not worried about him, but it's some other guys that we'll probably talk about in a minute, like that are kind of stuck in that spot where, but you can't really, move Jose Abreu out of the lineup at this point, even though he is getting older. I mean, he still was top 2 in the league in RBIs. He had 30 home runs. Like, you're not really going to complain about his production right now, and he plays a good first base. So I'm gonna have him there. He'll play DH a lot. He'll DH a lot, but I'm gonna have him at first base there.
Okay, yeah, those guys are definitely just movable. But I just kind of figured with age. But if Abreu does have like the tenure, so they're gonna go with whatever you say goes kind of deal. Opening day, he wants to play opening day first. They're gonna let him play opening day first. So
exactly.
Second base. Now you mentioned earlier this in right field are probably the 2 places they may try to make a splash in free agency. I do have them making a splash in free agency. I have Marcus Semien, but
yep. I think Semien is the guy that they should go after. He's played in Chicago before. He started with the White Sox when he came up. That's who I would like them to go after. The other options are like a guy like Eduardo Escobar, who also started with the White Sox in his career, so he's familiar with the White Sox. That's less of a splash, but still a really good player. To me, that just smells too much like another Cesar Hernandez, though. Better than Cesar Hernandez, I think, but not, he doesn't make the splash that Marcus Semien would. And you gave up a, number 4 overall pick as your second baseman of the future, for Craig Kimbrel and Ryan Tepera, right? And, it didn't blow up in your face, but it just didn't work out where you didn't, Kimbrel never really got used in the way that he needed to, just because he never got deep enough into the playoffs to where it really mattered. But now you got to go get a second baseman that's going to make a difference.
Do they keep? I have them getting rid of Cesar Hernandez, obviously, but I Danny Mendick.
Yeah, I think he's gone. I don't think he has a whole lot of options left because it's just been up and down. I don't mind Mendick as a player, but I think they've got too many guys that are like utility guys like that, and he's an older one. He's getting older now, so I think he's gone. I like him as a player. He's not.
He's 28, and if you have them, I think you're running out of options at 28. You might as well it's like Jacoby Jones. Jacoby Jones was, I think, 29, and it's like, all right, time to go.
Yep. Same idea. Like, he's done good things at times, but it's not
consistent.
It's not a guy you're not going to devote. He's not good enough to just stick on the team, on the roster. So. Okay.
So, do you have them calling up anyone to kind of back up Semien or whoever they splash?
Yeah, I mean, there's options there. They played Jake Burger at second base in the minors. Leury Garcia, I think, could still stick. He's played second base. I don't love him there, but as a backup, I don't hate him because he can play so many different positions. I think those are probably your options right now. I would love for like Burger to be able to be that guy just because I love his bat. He's better third baseman for sure, but his bat, if we could get him to be able to play second base, a good second base, then that would really lengthen that lineup. So yeah,
I have them out with Leury Garcia. I don't have them sticking, but I think they may. If he comes, I think he may not be he may be relatively cheap. So it might be one of those things where maybe they do keep him around.
Yeah,
because everybody needs a Don Kelly on the roster.
Yeah, and he plays. I mean, he can play every outfield position. He can play shortstop. He can play third. He can play second base. So, he can play every position, but pitcher and catcher mostly, or first.
I'm sure he could play first in a tight spot too.
He can play first, yeah, but it's one of those things. I don't think he plays any of them other than shortstop and very well. He just can play them, and he's such a streaky hitter. I mean, he'll hit 240 for you. But he'll go on stretches where it's like, dude, the dude hit 400 for 2 weeks, and then he'll go on stretches where he hits like 170 for 2 weeks, and that's where it all balances out. So he frustrates me. He definitely has value on a team, but I don't want to see him being, playing every day, because if he's playing every day, then you got a problem, whether it be an injury or a deficiency in your team.
And he's 30, 31 years oldish now too.
He's been around forever, and he's I'm sure great presence on the team. And he was a big part of this season. And shoot, the one playoff win they got, he was a massive part of it. But Yeah. I just don't think you can. I don't think you can. I'd be fine if they kept him around. You just can't play him as a starter there. So.
Well, it makes sense they keep him around. Obviously, Tim Anderson starts at shortstop.
Yep.
I think that's another gimme.
Yep.
I don't know if there's anybody else that they're even going to put in there as long as they keep Garcia, especially. So third base, Yohan Moncada probably.
Yep, Moncada there, and then if you have Berger around, he's the backup there, or if you keep Garcia around, he can play third too. Like I said, Vaughn played a little bit there. There's options at least there. It's not a position that I'm too worried about. Moncada plays a good third base, so I'm not too worried about it there.
Yeah. Outfield, left field. I have Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah.
I have center field, Luis Robert, and right field. We'll talk about right field in a minute because you and I are both in agreement on that as well. What do you think about those other two though?
So Jimenez, he's a terrible left fielder, right? He's incredible at the plate, but he's terrible left fielder. I would love for him to just be a DH, but I know he's not going to be that.
Well, especially like you said, with your bottleneck with the other first baseman DH.
Especially like that. So if he could just be the DH, then you can suddenly have Vaughn play left field.
And Gavin Sheets is another guy that kind of steps in like that.
You can have Gavin Sheets. He could play some right field. Sheets could be the backup first baseman. He could play a little bit of left field. He could DH when Eloy plays left field. Suddenly you've got like kind of a rotation. Sheets probably isn't going to play a lot against lefties, at least not right now in his career, but he matches righties. So then you can kind of do the matchup game if you do that. But if Eloy's playing left and he's your everyday left fielder, I mean, your defense is automatically worse. Sure, you feel great. I mean, Robert can take care of pretty much everything in center field, and he probably makes Jimenez look better than he is because he tracks everything down. But I don't know. I would love for him to just be a DH, but I don't think that's going to happen. I would say he's probably going to play left field.
How about I have them parting ways with Billy Hamilton. Brian Goodwin and Adam Engel, though. What about those guys for the outfield?
I think Goodwin is gone.
Engel they might keep, I think.
Engel they might keep, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to trade him.
Okay.
Just because he does have some value. He was hurt a lot this year, but he had 2 pretty solid years off the bench these last 2 years. He's very fast. He's one of the better defensive center fielders in the game.
And again, the younger depth coming up, Blake Rutherford and Mick Rodolfo.
He provides a little bit of power. You can always find probably an outfielder that you could, if you really wanted to have an outfielder, a backup center fielder, you could re-sign Billy Hamilton to a minor league deal if it's really that big a deal to you to have that. I don't think they will. And I think Goodwin's going to go get paid somewhere else because he had a good year. I mean, for what he is, he provided a lot. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if Engel's gone right now. I'll kind of pencil him pencil. I'll write him in, but I think he could be an opportunity. It'd be an opportunity for him to be traded, especially if they want to go young. They want to keep a guy like Burger on the roster and Sheets. Sheets deserves to be up. He's done enough.
Well, especially in that pinch hit situation where you do want him to face a righty.
Yeah,
that's
has all kinds of power. Home run the playoffs, which is nice. I mean, he deserves a chance to get more consistent at bats. He had like 12 home runs in the short period of time he was up. So
yeah, I kind of liked what I've seen from him. So right field though is kind of the anomaly here right now. They need to fill it, and I've got like 4 names I put in here, and I think Avisail Garcia is one. Jorge Soler is another one that comes to me. Michael Conforto and even Jackie Bradley Jr.
Yep, I think all those are options. It depends on how much money do they want to spend it on Simeon, which they should, or do they want to spend it on the right fielder? Because then you can maybe go try there's trade options too. I mean, there could be a team looking to dump a really good right fielder if you give them Craig Kimbrel and another guy. So I think right fielder is going to be up in the air. I mean, if you look internally, you got options there too. Sheets can play right field. Vaughn can play right field. Engel
Rutherford and Adolfo.
Rutherford and Adolfo. I like Adolfo better than Rutherford just because he's more athletic. I don't think either of them. I don't know. They could be used as trade bait too, if I'm being honest. I don't know. Yoelqui Cespedes is coming up at some point too. Yeah. He's Ioannis's brother, but he's only like 20.
It's a huge age difference. That's got to be like 15 years.
Yeah, but he, he surprised and he was moving up quick. So who knows there? I think that's probably 1 or 2 more years away. But I think I don't know. This is going to be like we said, second base and right field are the big question marks. But I think it's going to be somebody from the outside. They've been needing to fill right field for probably 4 years now running, and they've just done it with internal options for the most part. They went and got Nomar Mazara before last year, and then he was just horrendous. So that didn't work
that
out.
Guy.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
For either of us.
No, for anybody, including Nomar Mazara.
Not even the Rangers or the Rangers.
No, no, didn't work out for anybody. So it's kind of one of those things where I just think they have to make a splash now. It's a hole. You can see it's a hole in the lineup right now. When you look at teams like Houston, where they don't have very many holes in the lineup, they had a few weaker portions, but nobody was an automatic out seemingly. When you're putting Leury Garcia in right field, he's sometimes an automatic out. So you can't be stuck in that situation anymore, and you got to take advantage of this window that you have with all these young stars. When you probably have a pretty wide window, but it's hard to win 93 games, right? They missed out this year, and maybe this year wasn't the year. Obviously it wasn't. Things kind of just didn't work out with the injuries and things like that, but they have to kind of make that splash, in my opinion, this offseason, just with both those positions, second and outfield, to go all in for it. And I think they will, but they could be creative in how they do it. So the question is, okay, if you go externally for, big name bat out there, even not a big name, like any of those names that you even said are an upgrade for what they had last year.
If you get Soler, that's the power hitter that you could be looking for, but then maybe some of these other guys like Adolfo, you pretty much have to probably ship out Adolfo or something to get some of those guys too on a trade.
Yep. The other question is, I don't know, like if you get Simeon, do you have enough money to spend on right field, or do you have to go get it with a trade? I don't know. And then if you go get a right fielder, he's suddenly probably taking some at bats away from a guy like Vaughn or Sheets. So do you consider trading either of those guys? Because you just don't have room for them. Probably not, but you never know. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting because they have a lot of guys, like I said, that are just kind of pigeonholed in the same type of position. It's not like Vaughn can go be Tim Anderson's backup, or he can be the second catcher in DH, or you know what I mean? Like he's a DH or a left or right fielder probably, and first baseman. But then you've got Jose Abreu, who's stuck at first base. He doesn't have the position flexibility of those other guys. But you're also probably not going to move him or, remove him from the lineup.
You and I had talked about this before, and this is why you mentioned, picking the White Sox is going to be a little bit harder, despite the fact that they're so much closer than the Tigers. The Tigers, we figured maybe four, maybe 5 spots in that 26-man roster are in question. Where you're looking at probably 8, possibly even 9 spots on this roster that are still up in the air. Yep. You can probably lock in 17, maybe 18.
Yeah, and I feel good about those 17 or 18 guys. Like I feel like that's a winning team right there. That team will go out and beat most teams they play on any given night. But it's like, okay, now you got to build up the the depth and like for when there's injuries inevitably and things like that. And here's my thing. I was talking about this with somebody else the other day, and I'm like, if they wanted to make the splash of forever, they won't do this because of the clubhouse presence he is, but you could trade Jose Abreu right now, and that would open up all those positional flexibility things that you would want to do.
How much does a 33-year-old first base DH get?
Whatever Nelson Cruz got.
Oh yeah, that's true. Nelson Cruz is like 41.
Yeah, and he's still mashing.
I don't know.
That's the market, and I think they got a pretty good haul for him. I think they got a couple like top flight pitchers, prospects. So that's probably the minimum I would say, because he's even younger and he's honestly been at least as
more
good.
Recently an MVP. Granted, It's a shortened season, but more recently.
Sure. Yeah. So it's one of those things where you could I would say they have to listen to those conversations, to those if teams are inquiring, because if you get a haul for him where you can strengthen your minor league system, because the minor league system is obviously depleted because all those guys are on the big league team now.
Yep.
You can get a haul for him. This is how you kind of extend your run, kind of like the Dodgers have. It's kind of one of those things where it's like you don't want to trade a guy too soon, but you also can't wait too long. Kind of like the Tigers were in, where it's like they waited too long for a few of these guys, so they got nothing for them, right?
Yeah, Boyd and Fulmer at one point could have gotten quite a bit.
Yeah. So not saying all the guys, you're not going to strike perfect for every guy, but you got to also realize sometimes it's like it just makes sense. I'm not thinking they will, and I don't even know if it's the right thing to do, but I think you just got to listen to those things as they come in. So